Hi everybody, this is Liam Martin from Running Remote, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about how to speak at tech conferences or conferences in general. I speak at about a dozen conferences per year now. We also run a conference called Running Remote, which is the largest conference on building and scaling remote teams. If the algorithm has shown you to me for the very first time, I am Liam Martin. This is my channel. I talk about building and scaling remote teams, but specifically we're talking about how to actually get into conferences in this particular video. There's a lot of great advantages to speaking at conferences. It's a very cost-effective way to be able to get your voice out and describe what you sell, your services, your SaaS product, whatever it might be. Particularly in my case, it's Time Doctor and Running Remote, which is the conference that we run on building and scaling remote teams, and the software product that we use for time tracking for remote workers. And so I've been in, literally the last month, I've been in 6 cities. I've been to Ottawa, Cairo, San Diego, Istanbul, London, and I think Montreal and Toronto. And a lot of those were for speaking engagements. So I'm quite busy, and this is something that didn't just necessarily all start at one point. This was something that took years and years to develop. So I'm gonna give you at least my unique perspective on how to be able to speak at conferences. And this is probably the more realistic view of how to speak at conferences as opposed to any type of a hack, because I actually don't think you can hack this. I think this just requires a lot of time, energy, and focus to be able to actually do. So with that said, I'm gonna be talking about 6 tenets to starting to speak at conferences by me, Liam Martin from Running Remote. Let's go. So point number 1 is never ask people directly cold. I think that this is a really bad way to be able to get your name out to speak at conferences. It's not something that I have ever found anyone having a lot of significant success with. At Running Remote, we get hundreds and hundreds of different applications for people to speak at the conference. And we very rarely choose someone that reaches out to us cold that we don't already know about. So that's a really important thing to take into consideration. If you don't have a brand association that's really meaningful to the attendees, the chance of you actually getting in from a cold introduction, I would say, is probably 0.5% realistically in terms of your chances. I would say out of every 200 applicants, maybe we accept 1 out of that mix. So what I would suggest that you do is really have the philosophy of be so good that no one can ignore you, which is by my friend Cal Newport, who has written a fantastic book on that particular subject. You really need to do epic. And so if you do really good stuff, people will notice and people will want to come and talk with you. If you have introduced yourself to, let's say, the decision maker at a conference and they don't already know about you, your chances of actually speaking at that conference are very, very low. An honorable mention to that, one of the best ways to actually get into this is to get warm introductions by people that they do respect. So let's say you have like a conference that has 30 speakers. What you want to do is, are there any of those speakers that are there that are willing to put their neck out to be able to introduce you to that conference producer? So that's how I would do it in terms of cold outreach. But more importantly, another thing that you can do that's super powerful is really figure out how to help that particular conference. We've done that actually quite a bit, where a conference has reached out to us asking, hey, can you help promote the conference? And we've said absolutely. And then afterwards they said, hey, can Liam speak at the conference? Which is great. It's a fantastic bonus for me to be able to get the mission of allowing people to work wherever they want, whenever they want, out to more people. Number 2, you need to have a solid deck that you've done quite a few times. And also, it doesn't hurt to actually have a video that's public that has at least a couple thousand views on that particular talk. So we get a whole bunch of people that apply to be able to speak at Running Remote, And the thing that very few of them have in common is they say, oh yeah, I have a plenty of speaking experience. And then we say, cool, can you actually send us a version of the deck that you want to present? And they don't have anything. And not only do they not have anything on that particular subject, but they don't have anything at all. So really critical, super important, get yourself a presentation, get it recorded at a conference, even if it's a small conference, it doesn't really matter, and then put that up on YouTube so that people can start consuming it and you can build it inside of your portfolio. We generally will not accept anyone that we don't know they're good at speaking at conferences. So you can have a lot of domain knowledge, as an example, inside of a particular subject like remote work for me. But if you're not a good presenter, then you really can't communicate that message to the attendees, and the attendees will get a bad product, which means I have a bad product, which is a big problem for me and for you. So make sure that you've got that battle-tested deck. I have about 3 decks that I usually have. Future of remote work, how to hire remote, basically 5 rules for how to hire remote, and a very tactical operational one, which is generally just a Q&A about how to do remote. So out of those 3, generally people are interested in one of those 3 categories, and I can do a little bit of an edit to them and deliver it quite effectively. The other thing that's really cool is since I've done each one 20, 30 times, it's super easy for me because it's already in my head. I know every single word, I know the pacing, I know all the stagecraft, so it's easy for me to give a relatively good product to whoever wants it. Number 3, have a very specific thing that you are good at, that you can speak on, that not many people in that conference are very good at. Did that make sense? I hope it did. Basically, for me, I know remote work. So I can approach a tech conference or a SaaS conference or an HR conference, and I can say, hey, I'm the remote work guy. I'm the absolute expert at this particular thing, which is building and scaling remote teams. We have 100 remote employees in 32 different countries all over the world. I'm also the co-organizer of the largest conference on this particular subject. So I'm interacting with those experts all the time. So this is all that I'm thinking about for literally the last 15 years. So that allows me to be that expert that maybe at an HR conference, they don't necessarily have a whole bunch of remote work guys, and I'm a very small pool of people, and they say, oh yeah, we want to check the box for remote work for that particular person, or at a SaaS conference or at a tech conference. So I'm applicable to a lot of different conferences being that particular guy, which has allowed me to be able to get access to a lot of these conferences. So you have to figure out what that thing is for you. And I would suggest that you go very niche. So figure out something that everyone wants to have at your conference, but maybe they haven't had yet. And you can pitch that unique factor and hopefully get into the conference. Number 4, you have to understand the unit economics of how conferences work. Conferences are generally not that profitable. Best-in-class conferences are gonna do about 20% net margin per year. So if you have $1 million conference, you're probably going to profit about $200,000 if you're doing a good job, and a lot of them don't do a very good job. So what you need to be able to figure out is what makes it really easy for them to say yes. Is it worth it for you to be able to pay for your own flights? Do you not have to have a speaking fee? By the way, if you pitch them, don't pitch someone and then literally ask for a speaking fee afterwards. That's a really stupid way for people to say no. I've been blown away at how many people have pitched me saying, I would love to speak at your conference. And I'd say, great, that might be interesting. Let's talk about it. Yeah, my speaking fee is $20,000. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't you go fuck yourself? Because that would be a lot easier than you actually getting any money out of me on that type of a pitch. Don't pitch people that. Understand that there's a higher value proposition there. If you're speaking in front of 1,000 people, as an example, that are qualified people for your customer base, people that you would want to sell your product or service to, that's probably worth thousands on the low end to millions on the high end, depending upon your product. So be respectful of that. Flights free, hotel free. If you can pay for that, then that usually makes it a lot easier, where I know as a conference producer, okay, this person is gonna cost me nothing, to bring. So maybe that's someone that I might throw in the queue even as like a B-level speaker, so a backup speaker, to be able to go to the event, and if someone drops out, I can pop them in and you get a free ticket. So do those types of things, make it really easy for them to say yes, particularly if you don't have a strong brand built up just yet. Number 5, you need to promote the living crap out of the conference. So what do I mean by that? Well, usually any conference that's good, they're going to have a little video pre-roll of you introducing your talk and what it's all about. They'll have a couple photos connected to the running, basically for us, the running remote banner, and we kind of add in some other factors about what the talk is going to be about, and we ask people to put that up on their Instagram feed or promote it on Facebook, those types of things. A lot of speakers will actually end up promoting it to their email list, which is super powerful. That ends up moving a couple tickets for us per speaker. So you need to promote the conference, and more importantly, show the conference producer, i.e. me, that was a good decision. Meaning, basically, did me bringing you onto my stage, is that a profitable activity for me? Or is that a non-profitable activity for me? I can give you an example. We've had some speakers that have literally tweeted out the event and they've sold 8 tickets. And for me, I instantaneously know, oh, that person just made me $8,000. This is fantastic. This is someone that I would want to invite back in the future, or I'm even more excited about having them speak at the conference. Number 6, make sure that you get feedback on your talk at the conference as soon as possible. And generally, we only really invite like the top 10% of speakers back for the next year. And this is something that is just the reality of a conference. And even then, a top tier speaker, we might not necessarily ask them back if it's not the right fit, but we're looking at how much did the attendees like that particular speaker? Was it insightful? Did people learn something? Were they entertained by that particular speaker? We look at all of those factors and we figure out, okay, well, this speaker is going to actually, they're doing the work, they're getting the feedback, they're trying to actually get better at what they're doing, and they already produced a good product. Those are people that I'm gonna ask back for the next year and the year after that. And the beauty of relatively successful conferences is they're usually growing about 25 to 50% per year. So if you have 1,000 attendees, you're probably gonna have 1,500 to maybe even 2,000 attendees for the next year. And every year that you are invited back, you actually end up making more money. This is something that's going to be a lot more useful to your business. So ask for that feedback, really try to get better at what you're doing. Something that I do is I usually record every single talk that I'm doing, and then I also get direct feedback from people, and you can usually measure how excited people are about having you back if they actually invite you back. So that's the measurement that you should really focus on, because everyone usually tells you you did a fantastic job, but they're just telling you that to their face, to your face. In reality, if you get asked back, that's the best indicator that you did a good job in the first place. So those are my 6 tips on how to get more speaking gigs in the conference industry. If you're interested in learning more, why don't you ask a question down below, like this video, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. And magically, that information will just pop into your head because, I don't know, it just will. And it helps the algorithm for me to be able to bump this video up to get it out to more people. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.